Can you get as much today as you paid for it that time?
Sports memorabilia, price of all sports memorabilia has come down.
Yeah.
Has come down.
So did you overpay for that?
No, actually, the guy who pawned this didn't want that much money to begin with. He never came back.
What is it, by the way?
Can you just explain to them, because it's a very interesting business model. They borrow money. People come in, they'll give you their Super Bowl ring.
Yeah.
They'll borrow money at very high rates, interest rates, right?
Yes.
And if they don't come back, you hold the ring and you can sell it, so you can actually turn a profit on both.
Yeah, they can forfeit on it. Okay.
My first TV job, I didn't make any money, and so when I would run out of money at the end of the week, I'd go pawn my VCR and then get it back when I got paid. You guys don't give a lot for the goods, though. You guys are notoriously give you nothing. I think I got like 20 bucks.
Well, you got to look at it this way. I mean, back when there was VCRs, you know?
That's how long ago my first TV job was.
Busted.
Thanks, Rick.
Okay, if that VCR cost $100 new, and it's 2 years old, it's now worth maybe $40 if you sell it in a pawn shop, they're going to give you $20 on a loan.
Yeah.
So give us an idea.
Ring. How about this
like
ring?
the Super Bowl ring that Eric's got there, or what is that, a bronze medal from 1996, I guess?
Yes.
How much did you give that guy for that bronze medal? How much did you give him for the ring?
Okay, actually, there's confidential laws. I am not allowed to say what I loaned out on something. Okay, but it depends on what it is. If someone brings me a big bar of gold, which is a commodity, and it's got $10,000 worth of gold in it, I have no problem whatsoever paying him $9,500 or $9,800. I'm definitely of the belief I'd rather spend $1,000 to make $50 than spend no bucks to make no bucks.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So wait a minute. I have a friend. By the way, I'm going to call you on this. I got a good friend who has 4 pawn shops. You'll pay, when you say $10,000 worth of gold value in it,
yeah.
Don't you knock off a 20% off the top? Just
no,
talk
I mean,
about
if he's got
refinability gold, right?
No, I'm talking about gold bars, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Do you bring me Cougaran, something like that? I have no problem making 5%.
Eric has those. He definitely has those. Tell us about the new show before we run out of time on the History Channel.
It's a show about my pawn shop in Vegas. I have my dad works there, my son works there. I say the great thing about my business is working with my family. The worst thing about my business is working with my family.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like the only family-run pawn shop left in Vegas. Everyone else is corporate, so they won't take things like this. They won't loan crazy money on very expensive things. And
I just think you ought to go ahead and tell us how much you paid for it, because nobody enforces the laws in this country anyway. Victor Candy's always telling us things are fine. He'll tell you his balance sheet's got $40 million on it, and it don't.
Okay, when does the show start?
it's already started. It's Sunday nights, 10 o'clock on the History Channel.
Okay.
Rock on, man. Check it out.
All right,
Rick Harrison, good luck with the new show.
Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you very much for everyone for joining us for Happy Hour.
Cavuto is up next after a short break. Bye.
Tonight, beer diplomacy while Obama solves the Harvard arrest conflict with a cold one. Should the president simply tap into other hot-button issues the same way? Neil brews it up and serves it straight. The last word from the first name in business, Cavuto.
John Mapes is 42, mortgage, married, 2 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. John can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $25 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll search the pick of insurers like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. John's wife, Carrie, can get a $500,000 policy for under $15 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or visit SelectQuote.com.
1-800-335-7200.
And as a Progressive customer, you get to use any of our concierge claim centers.
So I can just drop off my car and you'll take care of everything?
Yep, even the rental.
What if I'm stuck at the office?
If you can't come to us, we'll come to you in one of our immediate response vehicles.
What if Mother won't let me drive?
Then you probably wouldn't have had an accident in the first place. And we're walking, and we're walking.
Making it all a bit easier. Now that's Progressive. Call or click today.
Tonight, He's the real Mr. Freeze. Find out how Ben & Jerry's CEO is icing out the competition and keeping their product hot with consumers. Only we've got the inside scoop. Who's up and who's down? America's nightly scoreboard.
Now on Cavuto. What the hell is going on? The beer bash is now the beer crash. Everyone wants in, and suddenly it looks like the Sud Summit is going to need a bigger table. The president there, Harvard professor Henry Gates there, Cambridge Police Sergeant James Crowley there. Talk is Gates is bringing some friends, and Crowley is bringing his family and his police union head, and oh yeah, his lawyer. We don't know what they're saying now, but we have a pretty good idea what they will be saying later.
What's that?
Racial crisis solved. Next up, health care. Because we care. And we prove it in glorious HD, even though a certain bunch at the White House right now might not know the difference, where the good times are really good and the numbers are just, well, really fuzzy. Oops, sorry for the mess, but in honor of tonight's powwow at the White House, we thought we'd join in the fun. Actually, we've been having, well, some fun for quite a while now, which might, and I'm saying might, affect the otherwise meticulous quality you've come to expect from this Cavuto show. But no matter, we are all professionals here, and true professionals, as you know, just don't report a story. They live it. And we felt it our duty, indeed our obligation, our patriotic duty, to live this story, to be this story, to not just kick the can or bottle, but drink everything in that can or bottle. Lots of cans and bottles before we do. Because if the President of the United States can use beer to help ease racial tensions, who are we to ignore the potent possibilities for a business show on cable? If he can help make amends with an angry professor and a once even angrier police chief and a few of their friends and families and lawyers and PR reps and press spokesmen, whoever else might be there, maybe the President is onto something there, that there is something to be said of gathering folks around a table and just, well, getting trashed. Suddenly bygones are bygones, angry words are just words, and men who once traded cheap shots are instead doing Jell-O shots. Okay, I don't know if they're doing Jell-O shots. I do know we are. All I'm saying is Lizzie Wicked Snot McDonald is a mad woman. That's all I'm telling you, mad woman. And Honig, the man is so out of it, he just registered as a Democrat. But I digress. This guy, this White House, is onto something. What better way to sell health care numbers, right, that don't add up than to get everyone around a table so Schloss, they wouldn't know a revenue from a Rheingo. Wouldn't be able to discern a dud from a bud, especially if they've got a lot of buds. And we are told that the president's drink of choice will, in fact, be Budweiser, the king of beers. For the king of America, who's just stumbled on something I've been telling him for months now, if only he'd listen. You want to get cracking on health care? Crack open a cold one, Mr. President. Actually, crack open a lot of cold ones. Then bring a pen. Your guests will thank you for everything, and as they stagger off your south lawn, sign anything. This is the group that puts together this show. I don't want you to worry, and I don't want you to laugh. Beer summits actually do work. And doesn't my next guest know it? There are a few bartenders as well known as Eddie Doyle. Eddie is the real-life inspiration for the character Sam Malone on Cheers. Eddie, so good to have you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me here.
What do you think of this summit, this tete-a-tete, whatever you want to call it, that you know, the president says the media's making a big deal of it? I think it's a very big deal, and it's a very good way to get disparate parties together. What say you?
Yeah, you know, it's come to a whole new level now. I think they should start things off by taking away the car keys from both of the gentlemen. The one issue I do have is that the two gentlemen from Cambridge selected beers that are from London.
Yeah, they're foreign beers.
One is a Jamaican beer that's owned by a British company, and the other is a British-owned company.
What do you think of the president picking Budweiser? He didn't even know it was taken over by a foreign player, but you can't blame him for that.
Yeah,
the man is busy with czars and everything, you know?
Yeah, the king of beers. He probably has a few in his refrigerator. But, you know, Jim Cook from Sam Adams, the guy helps out the community. I'm sure he's hopping mad right now.
Yeah,
and,
yes, indeed he is. But let me ask you about that. We're going to have him. We're going to have him, Eddie. But you know, this idea of gathering around a table, sort of knock around differences and all that stuff. What do you make of the fact that you know, this is different, this is novel, but with this president, not only is it is a magnanimous gesture, but it could be very effective. It could cut the tension dramatically.
Yeah, it's a casual approach. Anybody that gets together after work, they'll say, hey, you want to go out for a couple of beers after work? It's not hard liquor, it's not martinis. It's time to relax, unwind, and you know, just take it easy and have some fun with it, and talk things out.
Okay,
and I think it's a great
Eddie,
idea.
I don't want to interrupt you. We're getting a news alert in here that this table that we've been told was going to be the table, that is not the table. This looks like a Home Depot job here. That is not the table they're going to sit at. And this is very close to the kids' swing set. Taboo. No, you don't do that. This is not the table. It's tall, and Eddie, you might know, but it's a round table. I know that's not quite like a bar here, but it's a round table because it got so many people involved. There are a lot of people here. And maybe that little, you know, Lowe's deal might have been fine before, but now this is a big table. You know bars and bar rooms, bar tables very well. Do they get less intimate the more people come, or the more people that come, the more intimate and the more solution-based they get?
Well, I did say before that it's turning into a party. I mean, what are we going to do, have a DJ? And I think having the three gentlemen sitting at a table, enjoying a beer and talking is the right way to do it. Have some soft music in the background, like Brahms' Lullaby. Maybe open up with a couple of quick jokes to a little...
Eddie, I mean, I know you've got a fortune off the Cheers thing, but what happened, buddy? I mean, Brown's Lullaby.
Well, we gotta tone it all down. And,
okay. So no Seeger, no Springsteen, not even...
No.
No.
Not even a bartender.
Not even a bartender.
They should have brought me in there as a bartender.
They got the wrong guy. But Eddie Doyle, you'll be the first to know any news developments or progress or summit agreements we get out of this. But Eddie Doyle, thank you very, very much. An honor to have you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
All right, well, after tonight, the president might have to invite beer makers to the White House for another summit. The lack of an all-American beer, as Eddie just pointed out, has some in the industry hopping mad. They can barely stand it. Okay, some lawmakers and political pundits even suggesting that Samuel Adams should have been the brew of choice with this crew. Samuel Adams founder Jim Cook, just happy they're having a beer at all. Jim, always good to have you. Haven't seen you in a while. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing good, but I got beer, Neil. Life is good.
You know, it's weird, though, Jim. You would have been a slam dunk, I would think. You got two Cambridge guys coming to the White House, and, you know, you're a pretty popular beer in your neck of the woods. You're a pretty popular beer, period. And no Sam Adams. What happened? Who did you tick off?
No, I don't think we ticked off anybody. Frankly, I'm thrilled that people are even mentioning Sam Adams for an event like this. I started making this beer in my kitchen 25 years ago, and now it's on national TV, and people are saying this would be the right beer for the president to serve his guests. You know, for a small company, it's a great honor.
Well, don't understate yourself. Sam Adams isn't some of the, like, boutique shop. I mean, you guys are pretty big. But are you offended, though, that you know, the president probably didn't know about the Budweiser thing and being taken over by InBev and all that, but there is no American beer representation here. Now, I'm not saying this is the start of an international crisis. I am saying, though, that this could be the start of an international crisis. What say you?
Well, I am, you know, a little disappointed that there wasn't an American beer, because today, you know, the craft brewers like Sam Adams and hundreds of others are making some of the best beer in the world. We should have been at the White House, and if any good comes out of the fact that we're not there, it sort of highlights how difficult it is to be a small brewer in the United States when the industry is dominated
But you've been
by
doing
these
okay,
giants.
right?
We can't even get our beer into the White House.
I know, but you've been doing okay, and I'm told, and I might have, you know, dated statistics here, because like I said, we've been celebrating for a while here, Jim. A lot's fuzzy right now. But I'm told that because of hard times, actually, a lot of beer makers have been doing better. The logic goes something that when times get tough, people imbibe a little more.
Well, we've been doing well by our standards, but, you know, in 25 years of working my buns off with Sam Adams, we have gotten all the way to 0.8% of the market. So we're not even small, we're tiny. But someday we're going to be small, Neil. Someday we're going to be a small brewer.
All right, but turn that around. How many bottles of beer is that in a year?
It's a, you know,
it's a lot of bottles of beer on the wall, isn't it? Yes.
It's certainly enough to keep me and you in beer, Neil. It's plenty for that.
All right. Well, then don't moan about it. You're doing fine. You know, you're just a little jealous here. That's what's going on, right?
Well, I'd like to have an American beer there, and sooner or later, I think, you know, Sam Adams was one of the founding fathers. He was a great patriot. He started the revolution, but he never made it to the White House. I think Sam Adams, the beer, would be thrilled to be in the White House and see what a great country he helped create and we have now.
But because of what's going on in the White House and you're not being invited to the White House, you are here. So which would it be, Jim? At the White House, where your name would quickly be forgotten, or here, where at FBN you are a treasured guest forever?
I gotta say, I'd much rather be here in high def with you than at the White House.
You know, this is what makes you a salesman extraordinaire. Jim Cook, always good seeing you, my friend. Thank you very much. Continued success.
It's a pleasure sharing a beer with you. Cheers.
Same here. We're already about an hour ahead of you. All right, so what does this beer, or anyone's choice about beer, really say about you? There you are. It's that kind of show. Beer expert Matt Simpson joins me now to give me his take on the Beer Summit choices. Okay, Matt, I was actually going through some of the choices of this. This Red Stripe, is this favored by the professor, Red Stripe? It is, right? So tell me a little bit. This is a Jamaican beer. Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, it's a Jamaican beer. It's what we call a pale lager. And they're generally the same in just about every continent on the United States. I think every country that produces, has at least one major brewer, is brewing a pale lager. And they're light, they're refreshing, they're crisp, they're for everyday drinking or for summer drinking when the heat is on.
Yeah.
But the fact is they're relatively boring.
That's strong words. All right, the president's choice of Bud Light. Now, the reason why I was a little suspicious about that as we look into it, Matt, this is the same guy who campaigned as president complaining about the price of arugula. And I had to look up what the heck arugula was. But nevertheless, he's a Bud Light fan. I don't care whether you buy it or not, but what do you think of Bud Light as a choice?
As a choice for the president?
Yes.
Or a choice for me?
Well, for the president.
Okay.
I'm talking about the president's choice.
Again, I've mentioned to other people that all I can do is speculate as to what his impetus is for the choices. I don't know what his motivations are, but something tells me that he is trying to appeal to a broad mass audience in the United States.
Yeah.
And I think he picked the beer that he thought would relate to America's biggest beer choice.
So if he had done Amstel Light, it would have been, oh, you know, we know he's fighting with Angela Merkel, he's making a statement to the Germans, and that would have been bad, right? So Bud Light's a safe choice for him.
I got to go with Jim. There were a couple of great choices, I think, that could have been made. And, you know, whether I'm an Obama fan or not has nothing to do with craft beer, I'll tell you.
Well, be careful. Let me ask you about Blue Moon. Now, tell me a little bit about that, because we had 40 bottles of Blue Moon here before I got on the set, and we're down to 4. But anyway, tell me a little bit about Blue Moon.
It's not a terrible beer. It's on the craft beer bell curve. It still falls a little bit short of interesting and creative. It's not bad. It's a Belgian wheat beer, so it's got some body. It's got a little bit of heft. It's got some citrus notes. It pairs well with cheeses, but it's not exactly what we would consider in the craft beer world an interesting or adventurous attempt at a craft beer.
You know, you mentioned the most interesting thing yet, Matt. We totally left out what they're having with the beer. Now, we brought pizza here, and I swear there were 48 boxes when I got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not looking good.
48.
Well, 46 if you count what I had at lunch. Now,
Well, I'll tell you what.
What would you recommend, Matt? If these guys are sitting around, I mean, you know, they're outside. You remember, they're outside. It's hot today. It's on 90 degrees in Washington. What do you recommend?
I'm a firm believer in the KISS rule. Keep it simple, stupid. Now, you want to know pizzas are great, but if you're talking about a really good craft, better than a simple artisanal cheese plate. And I'll tell you, cheese goes much better. Beer goes much better with cheese than wine does.
There's no way. There's no way. You know, you have all these beers and he serves that. You might as well throw arugula on a plate. What are you talking about?
You want to know why
beer
goes so much better with cheese than wine? Because I'll tell you exactly why. The carbon dioxide that's inherent in beer is not inherent in wine. What it does effectively is it lifts the fats and the cheeses off the palate, allowing for a full sensory experience. There's no wine except champagne that can do that.
I told you, 90 degrees, probably on the South Lawn there, 150 degrees. Your cheese is just going to go...
Hey, you know there's a Whole Foods everywhere.
Well, that's true. You know, you're right about that. So, Matt, you grade the beers that you know of. You're giving them low marks, generally.
You know, I'm not one to really judge. Personally, I think all exposure for beer is good exposure, and there's nothing inherently wrong. There's nothing inherently flawed about these beers. They're not flawed beers. They're just uninteresting. That's the only my only beef.
Got you. Real quickly then, Matt, your thoughts, because everyone wants to know when you're on. Pigs in a blanket, yay or nay?
Pigs in a blanket by themselves or with a beer?
With the beers.
Sure, why not? You know, how can you go wrong with little hot dogs and phyllo dough?
Okay. Thank you very much, buddy. You were terrific at this. Matt Simpson, we have another Fox News alert for you.
As a matter of fact.
No, I wish we had more time, Matt, but we're eating and drinking. We just learned here that Joe Biden is at the table as well. Now, he has some pretty choice things to say when he's had nothing, you know, so... I'm just thinking, you know, some of the things that have come out of his mouth lately without apparently so much as a light beer passing his lips. This could be an interesting evening. Anyway, could this beer be the start of something big? I could see it now. John Boehner and Nancy Pelosi in a chugging contest. Mitch McConnell, Rahm Emanuel racing on the White House swing set to see who goes higher between shots. So who says health care is shot? Maybe all the president needs to do is switch this negotiating venue to his own backyard. Rebecca Wales, no fan of the health care plan, worries that that just might happen. Rebecca, you think he scores well with this type of a summit and that he might extend it to health care and he just might do well with it, right?
Well, I mean, it makes him look a little bit better. He's becoming a lobbyist. You're talking about two of the most aggressive politicians with President Obama and Rahm Emanuel doing something that, I mean, they're making a racist remark, taking it and moving it to the side by inviting two average Joes to the White House and having a few beers.
But there's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, you know, the bottom line is he could have just glossed over this, and he's invited to the White House and tried to let bygones be gone. And I just thought, Rebecca, you know, if it eased their, you know, anger, and it seems to have, we're going to get videos soon where we'll be able to tell in their faces, and maybe if they start dancing and hugging each other, that will confirm it. But that healthcare, if he went the same way, he might have just the same amount of progress.
Well, you know, you're talking about the Blue Dog Democrats. You're talking about the Republicans.
Well, Blue Dog, Blue Moon. You know, that you just got onto something here, Rebecca. Blue Moon for the Blue Dogs. Game over. Marketing done.
Does he really think, though, that, you know, this might work, but at the same time, does he think that inviting the Blue Dog Democrats and inviting...
All right, we're watching that. Rebecca, just as you're speaking here, this is the South Lawn. It's actually near the east side of the White House, the First Lady's residence. This is the garden not too far off that. I see Biden, and I see the professor, and I saw Crowley. Now, they all brought a delegation or group with them, including their families. But remember, if they had kids with them, they can't have the kids at the table drinking the beer. Rebecca, that would just ice the whole thing.
Not the best photo op there.
But you know, Rebecca, seriously, I'm looking at all of this. I'm looking at Biden. I was just waiting for a moment, but I'm looking at it and I'm saying, go full on this, guys, if we can, because no one wants Rebecca, maybe, but not me. But you know, what do you make of that? That's a pretty amazing shot. The President of the United States, you know, having a few brewskis and trying to calm some tension.
But that's how he got into office right there. That really is. He was the, he tried to be the average Joe. He was a great politician, and that's how he got into office, is by talking to the people. He really is one of the most brilliant and aggressive politicians we've ever seen. And now he has an entire month. We're talking about a bill that he pushed through and now has gone to markup, and he has an entire month that we're in recess to be a great politician. But is lobbying the Blue Dog Democrats and the GOP and the Democrats who are undecided, is bringing them up to his $20 million Republican mansion up in Martha's Vineyard going to be what these elected members of Congress really need to push this health care bill through? I'm not sure that the same tactics are going to work. But is it scary that this has worked to do something that an entire war was fought over? I mean, that is scary.
Well, I don't know what the heck you said here, but I'm saying this. I did notice that the person who shot that video has obviously been imbibing himself prior to this particular gathering. But let me ask you this. The president is a charmer. One-on-one, he's very good. At small groups, he's very good. He can convince you of the wisdom of his ways, and maybe a few beers later, you're saying, gee, I'm meeting with the Pope here. So will that change doubtful minds? In other words, Lyndon Johnson went down in history as a great persuader, Ronald Reagan a great persuader, that they just have a way, meeting you one-on-one or in a small group, of winning you over. Now, this officer was looking at possibly, getting a lawyer and taking charges to the president. I doubt that's in the offing now, don't you?
I do too. I mean, what average person, well, besides maybe myself and others like me, but what average person isn't going to be persuaded by the President of the United States saying, I'm going to open the doors to the White House, come have a beer with me? That's not really the most political thing to do. That's just smart. That's how normal citizens do things. They say, come be a neighbor to me. Let's settle our differences over a beer. Yeah. That's a smart thing to do.
Rebecca, any final thoughts on the most powerful and the second most powerful men on the earth not wearing jackets or ties, it seems, and the other guys wearing a suit and tie? I guess when you go to the White House, you don't want to come on an eyeside, right?
Well, I mean, I have a problem with Tony Hawk taking a skateboard down the halls of the Oval Office, of the White House. So, not wearing, Ronald Reagan was never in the Oval Office without a suit and tie. So I have a problem with that altogether. I think it's not being proper to the office of the presidency. So wrong person to ask there.
All right, Rebecca, a good sport about this. Thank you very much, Rebecca Wells. The scene right now in the northernmost part of the South Lawn. This is sort of the Garden Terrace, very near the east wing of the White House. And this is something a little unusual, and we're kidding and making a bigger deal of this than is warranted, but for a reason here. This is a very magnanimous and unusual gesture on the part of the President of the United States to do something nice, to make good for something that he himself said he had miscalibrated. I don't know if he's apologizing to the officer in question here, but I suspect after a meeting like this, I don't think any lawsuits are going to be filed, but we'll see. And we'll see whether this issue of health care becomes an issue. A steal at $900 billion, and they said that's stone cold sober.
World Business Forum. Unleash the power of knowledge and ideas. 5,000 attendees from more than 50 countries. 16 of the most brilliant minds in business, including Paul Krugman, Jack Welch, Gary Hamel, George Lucas, Jeffrey Sachs. An unparalleled learning experience. World Business Forum, October 6th, 7th, Radio City Music Hall.
With the sky-high cost of utility bills, it's becoming more and more expensive to be a homeowner. Using thermal imaging, we can actually see where this home is losing energy and money right through the windows. So how can we fix it? With new Champion replacement windows and our exclusive Comfort 365 glass, engineered to keep your home cooler in the summer, warmer in the winter, and comfortable 365 days a year.
The performance and the energy efficiency of these windows works every single day.
Since I've put in new windows from Champion, I've seen at least $100 savings a month.
Every Champion window is custom designed with computer precision to exactly fit your home and is backed by our lifetime warranty. That's right, at Champion, we build it, we install it, and we stand behind it.
Call 1-888-458-3307 to schedule your free in-home consultation and receive this $500 savings certificate off Champion windows featuring our exclusive Comfort 365 glass. And if you call right now, we'll double the savings to $1,000. Call 1-888-458-3307 today.
Make every trade count. Make every investment pay off.
Get up and start making the most of your money.
Fox Business. Opportunity, pure and simple.
Grease is the word. Yes. Broadway, Time Magazine's #1 musical of the year, is the show that you want with all the songs that you love.
Don't miss Grease live on stage at the Fox Theater, August 7th through 16th. Buy your tickets today.
It's that time again. Time to get fast. For a limited time, you can get up to 6 months of Comcast Business Class Internet for free when you order Business Class Voice with a 2-year agreement. It's full-featured voice with internet thrown in for free to give your small business the tools you need. Comcast Business Class. It's not small business, it's fast business.
Penny, you're supposed to tell me when we're back. Hi. $1 trillion health care on sale. Take 10% off. And if you act now, we'll take an additional federal bureaucracy off the purchase price right at the register. Don't laugh. Some in Congress reduced to bragging that their 10-year health care fix is now down to $900 billion. This is progress? Well, Pete Sepp at the National Taxpayers Union says hardly. You know, Pete, when I saw that and they were bragging about the $900 billion, I said, you know, I guess I should start drinking now.
Well, you can really only remove one superlative from all of this. The estimates that this would only cost $1 trillion, and I'm saying only facetiously, those were bogus in the first place. They were based on overly optimistic savings and revenue projections. What's really happened here is we have a bill that was once way, way, way over $1 trillion, and now it's way, way over $1 trillion.
But I don't believe any of these numbers. These guys can barely tell me what they're going to have for lunch tomorrow or next week, let alone a whole country's budget or healthcare initiatives overall plan 10 years out. I mean, this isn't worth anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
None of the projections for Medicare or Medicaid when those programs were created bore anything near to what they actually cost years later. They're projecting into the future, and they're basically fantasizing.
All right, when you say they don't bear any close resemblance to that, Medicare is a good example, right? We're going to talk to this about, I guess, a little later, but that started out as being a budget of looking like $65 million the first year, and of course, the latest count, $400 billion and climbing. So by your math, you think they're way off on this, and this is going to be much costlier than they're saying, substantially so. How much so?
Probably twice as much just to start with. I mean, the whole problem is the government will be massively subsidizing their option so as to undercut all of the others. Well, once the private insurers are forced out of the market and the government's the only one, well, they have two choices. They can either ration care or they can throw the barn doors wide open and give away care for everybody, and that's going to cost a huge amount of money. Either way here, we're talking about reduced freedom or higher costs.
But do you take it as a given, regardless of your stance here, that this is closer to reality, and maybe if the president has another beer summit or something like that on health care, he is going to close a deal?
He will try to close the deal, but people are starting to see through the rhetoric. I mean, look at the Democrats' health care bill in the House. The words choice, options, and freedom appear 85 times in the whole text of the bill. Require, limit, and restrict appear over 700 times.
You have a lot of time on your hands to have counted all of that. You know that? But that's what makes you good.
We went through all 1,018 pages, and we found the rhetoric does not match the reality.
You need a beer? You want beer, pizza? No, take us.
How about hard cider?
All right, fine. Anything you want. We have it all here, okay? Thank you very, very much. Meanwhile, there are those folks who think that the president's health care plan doesn't go far enough. On Medicare's 44th anniversary, physicians and healthcare advocacy groups rallying in Washington, calling on Congress to create a government-run plan and model it like Medicare. Now, one of these single-payer supporters is Dr. Margaret Flowers. Dr. Flowers Is Medicare that much of a success, though, that we should be emulating it? I think when it started, like I said, $65 million budget. We know it's $400 billion and counting and climbing now. $5 trillion paid out. Do we want that again?
Well, I think it's important to realize that Medicare right now takes care of our population that is elderly and disabled. So it really takes care of the population that has the highest medical costs. What we know is it's much more efficient than private insurance. It allows patients to choose their doctor. It allows doctors to practice medicine the way we were trained to. It saves money. If we were able to put all of the population into a Medicare system, it's a nice framework for creating a national health
But nevertheless,
program.
I talk to many of your colleagues, Doctor, who tell me that at least when it comes to them and whether they get paid, there's a substantial delay before they get paid. And many of them have feared that if we do essentially what the president wants to do, it will be Medicare, Medicaid on steroids. And they're worried about that. They think that it's a bureaucratic nightmare now. It'll be a huge one later. What do you say?
The real bureaucratic nightmare for us as physicians and for patients is dealing with the private insurance industry, because they put so many obstacles in the way for us to get care. They restrict who we can see, what treatments we can have.
Well, won't
really,
that be the
Medicare,
case? What makes you think that won't be the case with the new system?
Well, we have studies, 2 studies this year, showing that Medicare, the patients who have that, have the highest satisfaction rates with that. From a physician standpoint, in terms of the accuracy of billing, in terms of being reimbursed, that's very good. In terms of the reimbursement itself, that's always a problem when you're having to use your health care dollars to take care of the sickest population. But that can change if we put all of our health care dollars and cut out all of the money that we're wasting on this private insurance bureaucracy and administration.
You're a health advocate as well, Doctor. The President of the United States meeting at the White House, having, beer. And I love beer myself, but do you think that sends mixed messages?
I've been out all day speaking, and I haven't had a chance to keep up with this beer thing.
He's having beer, and it's his house, by the way. I mean, and he's having beer. Biden looks like he's having a great time, but you don't have a problem with the president, setting that kind of example.
I think it's very important for the president and for Congress to be listening to the people that are the ones who are going to be affected by this health program, and those are the patients and the health professionals. And so I think that I urge the president and Congress to listen to us and create a health system that works for everybody. Thanks.
All right. Wouldn't it be amazing if he didn't understand what you said because he's 4 or 5 beers into this? But we don't know. But, Doctor, thank you very much. Great having you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, it turns out too many clunkers, not enough cash.
My new computer started out fast, really fast, but now it's only kind of fast.
Hold on, let me check my email. It's not loading. Let me try this again.
This game should be a lot faster. Mom, this internet connection is so slow.
I love my computer. I don't know what happened. It's just not as fast as it used to be.
If your PC doesn't run like it's supposed to, if your internet connection is unreliable, even on a so-called fast connection, even if your brand new computer isn't as fast as it ought to be, you might not have any real problem at all. Log on to finallyfast.com. Take the free performance test to find out how to make your computer run fast the way it's supposed to. Finallyfast.com free performance test will immediately diagnose any hidden problems and show you how to get more speed on any computer. Plus, finallyfast.com provides you the software you need to get your computer up to peak performance. Log on to finallyfast.com and learn how to optimize your internet connection for faster speeds by automatically changing the settings that most people don't even know exist. Log on to finallyfast.com and learn how to make your PC run like new by getting rid of all the nasty junk files, spyware, adware, and registry errors that make even the best computers freeze and crash. Find out why Ascentive, the company behind this amazing free performance scan, has been featured in Newsweek, Forbes, and the Wall Street Journal. If you're thinking of buying a new computer or upgrading your RAM, don't. You could save hundreds, even thousands of dollars by taking the Finally Fast performance test first.
It's working great now. I'll send you the address in an email. Finallyfast.com. Send.
Dude, it's finally fast. finallyfast.com.
Take the free performance test at www.finallyfast.com. Get the software you need to get your PC running at peak performance and your internet connection speedy, even while watching video. Finallyfast.com makes everything faster, even on a brand new computer.
I'm booted up. What's that URL I should look at? Finallyfast.com. Hey, my computer's fast. Finally. Finallyfast.com.
Tough financial times call for real answers, and only one show gives them to you. From interest rates to credit cards and mortgages, your concerns answered on air.
How to survive in today's economy. Watch Your Questions, Your Money.
Only on Fox Business.
Welcome back, everyone. We're told now that they are mixing beers at the White House. In other words, trying a little of each. Now, we've been trying that here, too, and seeing how it affects the body and your mental alertness and being able to talk about things. So far, what was I saying? Anyway, not good. Now, we're also waiting for the first audio to come out of that beer summit. We do have this from Joe Biden, 44 bottles of beer on the wall, 44 bottles of beer. No, I love this story. Anyway, so good it's so bad. Not my singing. So many are interested in turning their clunkers for cash that now many auto dealers fear they're simply running out of cash. A dealer group says it thinks that the clunker funds are close to exhausted already. Our Jeff Locke here to sort it all out. I'm happy to report, sober as they come. Hey, Jeff.
Neil, you should be ashamed. There were some people out there that were actually criticizing the administration, criticizing this legislation for being a dumb idea. They said it wouldn't work. Nobody be turning in their clunkers. It was going to be a disaster. Well, they were so wrong. The administration was so right. In fact, they were so right that so many people have turned in their clunkers. This whole lineup is clunkers here in Michigan City, Indiana. So many have turned them in. There is a fear now that they may already have gone beyond the billion-dollar point, which may leave some of these dealers holding the bag. All these cars you see right here, these are all clunkers. They already gave them $4,500 for many of these cars, and if they don't get that reimbursement from the government, they're going to be left holding the bag on this 85 Pontiac Grand Am that just needs a little bit of body work.
Jeff, that's my Grand Am. I recognize that. So, Jeff, they're obligated to destroy the cars, right? Because the idea is not to get too many cars on. You know, you get the bad gas guzzlers or clunkers out, and you get new, more fuel-efficient vehicles in. But who checks that? Oh, we might have lost the connection.
Oh no, I got you back.
Okay, that's right. Who checks it, Jeff? What I was asking is, gee, I thought you were on the set with me, buddy, because I've been having a few. So, but what do you think of that? Is there any way to check that they're having these vehicles destroyed?
They are, and in fact, this one right here, this is an old Mercury. We watched them destroy this. The government makes them pour a solution into the oil, into the crankcase, and basically run it until the engine seizes up. So we know these cars are useless after this, and in fact, this dealer has done it to many of the cars in this line here, and that's why these are literally worth nothing now. So if they don't get the reimbursement from the government, they're really screwed in a large way.
Wow. Jeff, great seeing you. Thanks very much. Jeff Locke. So if it does turn out that their clunker isn't the government's definition of a clunker, what's a car salesman to do? How does that car salesman keep that prospective customer in the showroom? Well, Uber car sales dealer Jim Anderer says you never let him even think of leaving your showroom. Jim was darn good at that, still is, really, even though the government shut down his very successful Chrysler Jeep dealership, a whole nother soap opera there, and he was making money hand over fist there. But Jim's still a Mitsubishi dealer, still a darn good car salesman, arguably among the best car dealers, salesmen out there. So, Jim, you got the clunkers about to run out of cash for the clunkers. How do you keep the customer who came because of the clunker program in that showroom?
Well, hi, Neil, and thanks for calling me a great car salesman.
Well, you are.
That's quite a compliment.
I know Chrysler doesn't
yeah, I
think
mean,
so, but it's
when a customer comes into the showroom and their vehicle does not qualify or whatever, you have an in-house cash for clunkers program.
Yeah.
All right? You're going to take their vehicle, you're going to appraise it. Chances are it's worth at least $500 if it's inspected and running. Okay, so now you only have to make up either $3,500 or the $4,000.
But they want that difference made up, don't they?
Oh, Oh, sure.
And
but
you're
you
going to
can do
make it up
that.
to them?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, well, you're going to try.
Could I ask you this, Jim? Some of these dealers, I mean, they're knocking $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $8,000 off a price. How much overhead is in a car? How much premium is built in that they can just whack that price on?
Well, it depends. The imports have a little less invoice to list price in them. Okay? The domestics have a little more. All right, but
more wiggle room for you. So I want you to steer
More
and help me.
negotiating room.
I'm the reluctant customer. You're going to be, not that you are, the pushy car salesman. And I'm going to throw every doubt at you. Jim, I wanted $4,500, and you're telling me my clunker doesn't get $4,500.
All right, first thing, Mr. Cavuto.
I like that. Continue.
Let's pick out a car for you. Let's find out what
No,
car
I don't want to
you
pick out a car. You're telling me you're not going to give me $4,500.
But every car has a different rebate structure on it.
What are you talking rebate structure?
Well, on some cars I can show you $8,000 in rebates, and other cars I can show you $2,000. Okay, I'm going to try to make you happy and come to an agreement on the rebate. I'm going to try to match that cash for clunkers deal that the government...
I'm going to go across the street to the other dealer. He can give me $8,000. Can you top that?
Well, I don't know. We have to see what we can do. But first, you got to pick out a car. I want you to test drive the car and see if you like it. I'm going to run the numbers past you. You don't have to
But
commit.
your cars have been sitting on this driveway and in this parking lot for months. They're not moving. You're desperate. You're more desperate than I am.
I'm not desperate.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. Make it 10,000 and we'll talk.
Neil?
Oh, now it's Neil. Don't get so familiar.
Right now,
yes,
I want you to pick out a car, and we're going to test drive you, and we're going to work through the numbers. You have a car to trade in, am I right?
Yes, I do.
That you thought was a cash for clunker vehicle?
Yes, I did, yes.
I guarantee you that vehicle is worth more than you think it is.
How much more? I thought 4,500.
Well,
You just told
car.
me 500 tops.
I didn't say 500 tops. I said a minimum of 500.
A minimum, okay.
Minimum.
You're
Okay,
wearing me down, Jim. That's how good you are. You're wearing me down. Pizza and a whole case of Sam Adams for him because he's that good.
I'm going to take both, man.
No,
I got to
you're
tell
not
you, this
taking
looks
both.
great.
That was just an empty gesture. Benny has his eyes on it here, and he's fast.
It's awful
That was
good,
kung
man.
fu. All right, you were great, buddy. You hang in there. Thanks for the guidance. All right, when the money seems to come easy, time to come down hard. Why Goldman Sachs is finding out the hard way.
Say cheese. Cheese.
Hey, you two. Long time no see.
How about Uncle Joe? Seems strange not seeing him here. I miss him.
I miss his jokes here. Same each year, but I still miss him. Yeah.
How's Aunt Stella doing since Uncle Joe died?
Pretty fair, I'd say. You know, Uncle Joe had one of those life insurance policies through the Colonial Penn program.
That's a relief.
Mm-hmm. Aunt Stella used his insurance money to help pay for the funeral and other bills.
You have life insurance?
I sure do. Honey, it costs as much to bury a woman as it does a man.
Sure. But at my age, I don't think I could afford it.
You just need the right kind. We got insurance through the Colonial Penn program at an affordable rate.
Hard to get?
No, you just pick up the phone and call.
She's right. If you're 50 to 85, write down the toll-free number on your screen and call about guaranteed acceptance life insurance through the Colonial Penn program. It's easy. It costs less than 35 cents a day. That's less than a daily newspaper. There's no medical exam, no health questions. Guaranteed. You can't be turned down because of your health. Your rate will never go up, and your benefit will never go down due to age. Also guaranteed. You know, the average cost of a funeral is over $7,300. That's a big burden to leave your loved ones. Make sure your family has money to help cover funeral costs, medical bills, credit card balances, or other final expenses. So pick up the phone, call for free information and a free gift. Call 1-800-598-2773 for free information and a free gift. Call 1-800-598-2773 or visit us online at colonialpenn.com. There's no risk or obligation. That number again is 1-800-598-2773. Call now.
tonight's Fox Business Summer of Opportunity Sweepstakes. Monday through Friday, tune into Fox Business during the 8 a.m., 3 p.m., and 5 p.m. Eastern Hour, and we will reveal our word of the day. Or find the word online. Then log on to foxbusiness.com/contest and correctly enter the word. 4 lucky winners could take home $10,000 each. And 1 grand prize winner will also win a trip for 2 to New York City and a visit to the set of Happy Hour. Play our Summer of Opportunity Sweepstakes only on Fox Business during the rest of this month.
All right, we are getting word right now. This is the so-called beer summit, whatever. We're going to get Sergeant James Crowley having his own news conference at 7:30 p.m., so about 45 minutes after meeting with the president, Professor Henry Gates. Remember him? They're all having a brewski. Joe Biden's there, too. We do not know if Joe Biden's planning a news conference. He might. But FBN is going to be on that news conference at 7:30. I don't know any of the machinations here, whether there's any significance to Sergeant Crowley having a press conference alone, whether the president himself is going to say anything later or the professor is going to say anything later. Keep in mind the professor was contemplating a lawsuit against the Cambridge police for being arrested for breaking into his own home. That was the original charge, and disorderly behavior. That calmed down a little bit, and you know, this meeting on a long way to calming things down. But we are going to be hearing from Crowley and maybe getting an indication of healthcare and how that's doing. No, he's not going to talk about healthcare, but you never know. All right, Goldman sucks. To hear almost any politician, and certainly every prominent one today, Goldman Sachs cannot and should not get away with handing out billions in bonuses when not too long ago it was taking bonuses from taxpayers. And now the Senate is on a fishing expedition looking for fraud at Goldman. Our all-stars join in to weigh in on that. Jonathan Honig and Mike Maiello, Lizzie Wickett-McDonald, and Todd Schoenberger. Wickett, what do you make of this? I mean, is Goldman just an easy target, or are they drunk, or what?
You know, the Senate probe, permanent subcommittee on investigations, is also looking at Deutsche Bank, apparently JP Morgan Chase and WAMU and other players about mortgage bond fraud. In other words, a subprime bond factory. But as to whether Goldman Sachs should be in the crosshairs, in some ways, people would say yes. Now, I don't think it's this planet-eating Death Star, as some has made it out to be, but it did.
How about pizza eating? By the way, you want some pizza?
It has. Yeah, I don't want any pizza, but it has.
Let me know if you do. We've got plenty, but go ahead.
Massive amount of bonuses, but the thing is that it used its muscle power and influence in Washington to get made 100% whole in trades with AIG, $13 billion in taxpayer money there. So, you know, is it worth looking into overall Wall Street? Yes, absolutely.
Jonathan Honig, pizza and Goldman Sachs don't go together. I'd never know, like, if it's like a late night at Goldman where they're having pizza, probably, you know, Chablis and shrimp, but certainly not pizza. But what do you make of this? Is it a chase on Goldman? You've been kind of eclectic on this. You've been saying, you know, Goldman had some fast deals too, right?
Well, I mean, Neil, Goldman Sachs got bailout money, but of course, I and many people were against the bailouts from the start. But have you ever noticed that, I mean, this week it's Goldman. A couple years ago, it was Big Pharma, and it was Big Oil, and it was the video game manufacturer.
We should stress, by the way, Goldman didn't ask for this bailout money. I mean, this was sort of like...
Well, they did in some ways. It got bank...
Yeah, but you know what?
The bottom line, it's all paid back.
They did get other bailout money besides the TARP.
Well, the AIG... Go ahead, John.
Business is and always will be the perpetual scapegoat for anything. And when a company is doing well, you can bet bureaucrats look at it with suspicion, unfortunately.
Mike?
If Goldman, say, messes up with its derivatives deals right now, right? Let's say that they're not as hedged as they think they are, and we find out a week from now that Goldman is collapsing. Do you think the Treasury would step in to do something about it? I think that they would. Goldman's bondholders think that they will. I think Goldman Sachs thinks that they will.
So you hate Goldman, too?
So, well, it's not that I hate Goldman.
You want pizza?
It's the
you feel like pizza.
I hate pizza.
Really?
You know, Goldman's...
Good, because there's more for us. But go ahead.
What worries me about Goldman is this assumption of another bailout if they were to get in trouble, and that's why they are worthy of our attention. Yeah, and you know what? Maybe they should come out and say, Lloyd Blankfein should just sign a document and say, I will never accept a penny of taxpayer money, even if it means we're going out of business tomorrow. And then maybe that will help. We'll see what happens to its bond prices.
Well, that'll never happen. You obviously imbibed a little bit before you came up here. Todd, real quickly, where does this go, this Goldman hunt?
Well, this definitely is a serious matter, Neil. I mean, anytime you have a Senate panel that's going to look at internal communications, they're going to want to know what's really happening and if Goldman actually knowingly misled investors. In my opinion, I'm not so sure, but just keep something in mind. Last week when they released their earnings report, they did say they earmarked, what was it, 14.5 or $11.4 billion, I believe it was. Just 11.4 billion just for compensation, and even though they did pay the 1.1 billion in warrants, that does release them from these executive compensation restrictions.
If they didn't have such a bad blowout quarter, if they weren't paying out this big money, no one would have paid it.
No, but there's another side to the story, and that is that Goldman alums are in the corridors of power in Washington.
Right.
And I think one thing to worry about is
Neil.
No, we don't have any more time here, and I'm hungry. I'm going to have some more beer. All right, so tonight's after-hour beers are on the House, the White House. So why not lunch?
In business, there's no later.
Fox Business gives you the market moves as they happen. This is the team to watch.
Fox Business, opportunity pure and simple.
Fly higher. Go further with us. U.S. Bank is one of America's strongest banks. And our strengths have never been more aligned with the needs of our nation. We are well capitalized, eager to lend, and focused on helping businesses and consumers come through these extraordinary times with flying colors. Imagine what you can do with all of us serving you. U.S. Bank.
What if I...
Today we're installing internet service, the high-speed stuff. Comcast just doubled their speed, so my guys have to be extra quick.
Hey, come back here.
Gotcha.
Get the biggest value on internet service only from Comcast. We've doubled our speeds without raising our costs to bring you super fast downloads for just $19.99 a month. It's a huge deal for a small price, so call now.
If you want a bra that just doesn't work from a store that just doesn't care, go ahead. Knock yourself out. But if you want to look and feel your best, shop Livy Ray Lingerie.
No bus too big or small. We fit them all. Livy Ray Lingerie behind Town Center Mall in Kennesaw.
Dear Rebath, I was so afraid of falling when getting in and out of the bath. After visiting your showroom, I was thrilled at how affordable you were. There were so many styles to choose from. I loved working with you. You replaced my bathtub with a shower, and I feel so much safer in my beautiful new shower. Gratefully, Susan Atayek.
Call Atlanta Rebath today to receive our spring special of $500 off.
Where's the best place to buy school instruments?
Dirt Cheap! That's right, Dirt Cheap Music in Smyrna is your band and orchestra headquarters. Dirt Cheap Music carries all the top brands, as well as educator-approved accessories that your band student's gonna need. New flutes, clarinets, trumpets, violins, saxes, snare drum kits, and a great selection of pre-owned gear 50 to 70% cheaper than new. We have a nationally certified repair service and financing is available. And band parents, you can buy with confidence online at dirtcheapmusic.com.
Man, oh man, I'm so glad I've been pacing the Blue Moons here because this is, you know, like blue lightning out of the blue. We're getting indications out from the Senate Finance Committee Chairman Max Baucus. Really, he's the legislative power behind the scenes of this whole health care thing. Well, Baucus is saying right now that bipartisan talks on U.S. health care reform really haven't made enough progress for even his panel to vote before the Senate starts its month-long recess next week. Now, this was largely expected, but they did want to get, as they did in Congress, at least one committee, at least in the House, to rule on something health care related, to say we like health care, we like doctors, yay or nay, something. And this is Baucus's way of saying it ain't happening here, folks, so cool your jets and take some extra beer. He didn't say take extra beer, but he did say cool your jets. Todd Schoenberger, I know I'm hitting you with this blue moon, blue lightning here, but what do you make of that this could be running into some serious impediments in the Senate?
Well, you have to wonder, Neil, what are the constituents doing right now? I mean, clearly there are some grassroots efforts out there to try to overturn or keep this vote from occurring before they take their August recess. And as we go into September, into the fall months, I mean, what is it that the voters want? I mean, clearly the voters are actually calling these their lawmakers, and they're expressing their opinions about this. And right now, as you see, the numbers just are not there to support this health care plan.
Jonathan, what do you make of that? Now, you know, the House had sort of this kind of weird agreement, the House committee, look, we're going to look at these cooperatives instead of a government-run healthcare system. You know, it's always eyes of the beholder, but it was a way to make it look like they're doing something, and they would start doing something in earnest in September. This is the Senate committee, the key guy leading the effort in the Senate saying, we're not even there, right?
Well, Neil, I hope that they're on both sides of the aisle. There's a sense of kind of wanting to hold on and slow down a little bit. I mean, you made the point a little earlier in the program. Who would have ever thought that when Medicare was passed, when Social Security was passed, the ultimate deficits that those programs would ring up? So I hope there's a little sense of wanting.
On this show, I made that?
I think it was a guest.
Oh,
yeah, I think it was a guest. You might be a little tipsy, Neil, now. I know we're getting towards the end of the hour.
But continue. Go ahead.
Sure. I hope there's some sense of the long-term consequences of these plans, which maybe in 2009 seem brilliant, in 2029 might not seem so smart.
You know, I think Jonathan raised a very good point, Mike, and I want to raise it with you on the 44th anniversary of Medicare. The best intentions go crazy, right? Now, Medicare, say all the good things you want to say about it. It wasn't what it was charted to be, and its expenses weren't what they charted to be. 60-some-odd million starting out, $400 billion last year. Likely $1 trillion plus within a couple of years. So all of a sudden, then what you commit to becomes pretty big.
And, okay, so there's fear on that front. But there's also a lot of uncertainty about the problem we're facing. You've got this kind of weird issue
Yeah,
about
but if you're going to
healthcare
fix the problem, you want to make sure what you're fixing, it doesn't cause a
Well, it doesn't even seem like a very immediate problem to a lot of people, right? I mean, you get those polls that say people kind of like their health insurance.
People are changing their minds. They're saying, you know what?
Everyone's kind of just not sure because for the most part, right, like you have your insurance and, you know, you have your gripes with your company. You kind of like them, you kind of don't. You
so after all this, you like this healthcare stuff, you love Medicare, and you swear in a stack of Bibles you have not had one beer.
I have not had a beer, and I do love Medicare. Actually, I think it's a great program.
Really?
And I also think that
we're missing a case.
I think that our current system.
We're missing a case.
I think our current system is truly broken.
Really? All right. Wicked. Love Mike dearly. He's a great, wonderful human being, compassionate, big heart. We pay dearly for his big heart. But this is falling apart, right?
Yeah. And you know what's interesting, Neil, to me is the big voice you don't hear in this debate is Hillary Clinton, who has a lot of experience trying to push health care reform.
Shut her out.
And you know, she said in 2005 the lessons she learned from her failures, and Democrats might want to take heed, is to move in small steps and do it bipartisan.
But they broke her elbow and sent her to the Middle East.
But she said
they didn't break her elbow.
She said do it in a bipartisan way, and so we haven't seen those lessons.
But it's also a mishmash right now.
Well,
that's
yeah.
the thing.
Then why are you signing on to it?
Because there's a real vision here that could be good for the country.
Why do liberals sign on to a mishmash?
Because you know why? Because we make the mistake of trying to compromise with Republicans.
All drunk and you
yes, we have a beer with a Republican and we think that they're our friends, and then we make the mistake of trying to compromise.
Well, Todd Schoenberg, I'm looking at this, and when Max Baucus, say what you will of the guy, has been leading this, and this is the most pessimistic I've heard him in a while. That's not good.
No, you're spot on with that, Neil. It definitely isn't good. And when you need to see some type of growth out of this. I mean, when you have other Democrats out there that are making these comments, it cannot be good, especially with the president. This is his premier plan. This is what he's trying to pass. And if you don't have the backing of the American public, if you don't even have the backing of your own team, what's the point of even going forward? I'm anxious to see what's going to happen this fall because right now, this guy is 4th and 10. It's not looking good.
Guys, thank you very much. I've got to go. It's been a great show. Thank you. Good night.
This is a dollar bill. It's worth 27% less today than it was in the year 2000. And who knows how low it could get in the next 8 years. Would you like to see what security really looks like? This is gold. This is solid. Since the year 2000, gold has more than doubled in value. To which would you rather trust your future? The dollar, the yen, the euro? Unreliable. If you're looking for security, it all comes down to this: gold and Roslyn Capital. Rosalind Capital takes the time to listen. In these tough times, that's more important than ever. With an honest partner like Rosalind Capital, it is never too late to establish a solid plan. Buy your gold or I buy mine. Rosalind Capital. Call today and ask for your free guide to owning gold. The call is free and definitely worth your time. Call Rosalind Capital and tell them Gordon Liddy sent you.
10% unemployment is almost here. Yet Congress wants trillions for new government programs. Higher taxes mean more job losses. We create jobs when small business and families keep more of their money. And we can start with a 50% cut in the payroll tax. Call your member of Congress. Tell them we don't need higher taxes. Instead, we need jobs here. Jobs now. Jobs first. American Solutions for Winning the Future is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Hi, may I help you?
We're shopping for car insurance, and our friend said we should start here.
Good friends. We compare our Progressive Direct rates apples to apples against other top companies to help you get the best price.
How do you do that?
With a touch of this button.
Can I try that? Wow.
Good luck getting your remote back.
It's all right. I love this channel.
Shopping less and saving more. Now that's Progressive. Call or click today.
Tonight, he's the real Mr. Freeze. Find out how Ben & Jerry's CEO is icing out the competition and keeping their product hot with consumers. Only we've got the inside scoop. Who's up and who's down? America's Nightly Scoreboard.
Tonight's scoreboard, and we've got a face-off. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi declaring war on private insurers. She's thrown down the gauntlet, and Scoreboard wants to know, will the insurers pick it up and fight back? Tonight, the battle of the century goes ballistic on the Hill. The Cash for Clunkers program, $1 billion allocated, and that well may be running dry. Is this one government program that deserves more money? Text us your take. Cash for Clunkers. Is it a buy, a sell, or a hold?
My infrared scope. Hanes, size 36, tiny whiteys.
Scoreboard's Midsummer Hollywood Report Card. Attendance is up, but DVD sales are down. We score Hollywood's bread and butter with legendary producer Peter Guber. And the CEO of Ben & Jerry's on the cold truth about running an ice cream business. Who's up, who's down, and Jay versus Joan, a tale of the tape. America's Nightly Scoreboard starts right now.
Hi, everybody. I'm David Asman. Thanks for joining us tonight. First up, it is war, ladies and gentlemen. Just as you thought things were calming down a little bit in the health care debate, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi declared war on private insurers today, calling them, quote, immoral and, quote, the real villains in the health care debate. So now that she's thrown down the gauntlet, will the insurers pick it up and fight back? Our own Shannon Bream has been following the debate, and she's here to tell us what's going on. But Shannon, right hot off the press, we just got news that the Senate Finance Committee Chairman Max Baucus has just said that it is clear, and I'm quoting him now, there will not be a markup next week. That is a markup of some bill out of that gang of six, so-called, the 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats. So it looks like things are about as pessimistic as you can get for those who are hoping to see something coming out of the Senate.
Yeah, it definitely looks like both sides of the Hill are not going to get anything done before that nice, long, month-long recess that they have in August. You know, the Senate Finance Committee has been such a key to this whole thing, as all of us have been following it. And you well know that that is one area where they've been trying to put something together that would be bipartisan with that gang of 6 made up of Democrats and Republicans. And everybody has sort of pinned their hopes on that particular committee. Folks over in the House, primarily those blue dog moderate Democrats, have also been looking at that committee saying, let's let them go first. We think whatever comes from there will be what the rest of us have to play with, have to deal with. So the fact that they're now coming out tonight and saying it's not going to happen before we leave for recess is definitely a stumbling block for those who were hoping to make some significant progress at this point.
Absolutely. Okay, now, Shannon, let's move it to the House for a second, because it was Nancy Pelosi who, in a dramatic, from my ears anyway, it sounded like a dramatic shift in emphasis, called the private insurers villains. She said they were essentially everything but evil. I don't think she used that word, but essentially calling them the enemies. If this is a war, they are the enemy. Who told her, or on what basis did she ratchet up the rhetoric?
Well, you know what's interesting? I think that there's been a shift in language that you could recognize from the president over the last weeks and months. Instead of really couching this as a major overhaul to health care, which a lot of Americans are very nervous about, you may have noticed this shift in his language and many other key Democrats, including the Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, that this is now more about the big bad insurance companies. And that's because one of the top pollsters for the president figured out that most Americans hate insurance companies. And they said, you know, basically, if we change the language, if we change the topic to be about those insurance companies and their failings, then possibly we can get more people on board. It seems to be a strategy that's working. You're right. Today, Pelosi said they are villains. They are immoral. She went very close to calling them, as you said, evil. Here's what else she had to say.
It's very clear that we want a strong public option in the legislation. Insurance companies are out there in full force, carpet bombing, shock and awe against a public option.
So again, making the insurance companies the bad guys. And you know, her counterpart over in the Senate, Senate Leader Harry Reid, also said Americans should not shed a tear for these companies. According to him, he claims they make more money than any other industry in the U.S. We're kind of fact-checking a little bit on that, but that's what he said today. David?
Right. What a terrific clip, by the way, of Nancy Pelosi. Shannon Bream, thank you very much. Carpet bombing, shock and awe. Well, after her press conference, Speaker Pelosi had even stronger words for the health insurers. Here's what she said. It is almost immoral what they are doing. Of course they've been immoral all along in how they have treated the people that they insure. They are the villains. They have been part of the problem in a major way. They are doing everything in their power to stop a public option from happening. So are the villains, as she calls them, just going to sit back and take it? Or are private insurers going to fight back? And how? Let's ask Mike Tuffin of America's Health Insurance Plans. He joins us now from D.C. So you're a carpet bomber, not just a carpetbagger, but a carpet bomber, according to Nancy Pelosi. Did you expect to be hit with this kind of language?
Well, I think we know politics, as usual in Washington, are kind of rearing their head, David. And it's unfortunate, and this kind of divisive political rhetoric isn't going to get anyone covered, isn't going to make health care affordable for small businesses, isn't going to solve the problem. And, you know, I think what's immoral is to have a crisis on our hands, as we do, with health care costs threatening to bankrupt this country, and Congress isn't taking action and is instead resorting to political games and divisive attacks.
Well,
and
Mike, let me just ask if you have a clue as to what happened. Now, she's blaming you guys, the insurers and the folks working for them inside the Beltway, that it's your fault that you were doing all this carpet bombing, the scare tactics and everything, and that's why she calls you villains now. But does her language indicate that there is no chance for you and her side to compromise on this?
Oh, there's every chance to compromise, and I don't know what this carpet bombing is referring to. We're running a television ad right now. It's positive in support of bipartisan reform. It's about taking pre-existing conditions off the table, making care more affordable, covering all Americans. If that's carpet bombing, that's carpet that we could all use, because our advertising and our advocacy is in support of health care reform, as it has been for 3 years. So these attacks have no basis in fact. They're political diversions. What's happening is the government takeover.
But where did I still want to know exactly where did they come from? Do you think that Nancy Pelosi got a phone call from the president saying, "Hey, look, I'm counting on you. You gotta scare the heck out of these guys and bring them back to the table"?
Well, I think, as you reported, they're coming from polls. What we know from the polls is that the American people are rejecting the government-run plan. The American people want reform, as do we, but they don't want to turn this entire system over to Washington, lock, stock, and barrel. So in the face of declining polls for a government-run plan, people are resorting to attacks on the private sector. And, you know,
well,
let
hold
me
on
say
a second, Mike.
That.
Let me just ask. I want to get to the end game if I can. Do you think the end game of Nancy Pelosi is to put you and other private insurers out of business?
Well, you'd have to ask the Speaker, but we heard on an earlier program, Chairman Frank, a very respected member of Congress from Massachusetts, said that the so-called public option is the way we get to single payer, which means no private health care in America, which means Washington, politicians and bureaucrats in Washington run the entire system. And we know that's not what the American people want.
I just talked to, forgive me, Mike, but I just talked to Dennis Kucinich earlier today, and he said exactly the same thing. He wants single payer. Barney Frank, as you said, wants single payer. Do you think that Nancy Pelosi and the president want single payer?
I think you'd have to ask them, but what we know is the American people don't want that. And we also know that Medicare itself, an incredibly important safety net program for seniors, is on the verge of bankruptcy. So the idea that we're going to put 200 million more people on government health care doesn't make any fiscal sense. It'll blow up the budget. It'll wreck the economy. So why don't we focus on solutions that work and solutions the American people will support?
It's my opinion, Mike, that she would not use that language if she was interested in getting you back to the table for a compromise. I mean, it seems like you only use that language against an enemy that you want to destroy.
Well, perhaps that's the case, but we are at the table today, right now, despite those attacks. We reject those attacks. We reject those attacks on hardworking men and women across America who work for health plans, doctors and nurses, case managers, people who help people manage chronic conditions, people who help make health care more affordable for small business. Those attacks are way out of line. They're not going to get any American covered. They're not going to bring down the cost of care. But we are at the table trying to get bipartisan reform done and done this year.
All right, Mike, stay with us. We want to bring in a panel starting with University of Maryland economist Peter Morisi. We also have James Freeman of the Wall Street Journal, Fox Business's Cody Willard, and sports attorney Ryan Smith, all of whom are well briefed on this subject. And Peter Morisi, particularly you, who've written about this many times, do you think Nancy Pelosi's rhetoric was